Hi guys, in this video we're going to discuss the challenge and the super challenge that you did in class today with the touch sensors. So let's get started with the first one, the challenge bump switch. The challenge bump switch only included using the bump switch, and our task description was wait for the bump switch to be bumped before both motors turn on at half power until the sensor is bumped again. Both motors should then move in reverse at half power for 3.5 seconds. As you can see, if we go from task description to pseudocode, I've taken this complex behavior and broken it down into basic and simple behaviors. If we go a little further down, you will see the correct code or task main with my programmer notes on the side. So let's talk through this a little bit because some of it was a little tricky. So we first start with the bump switch is bumped, and we're going to use until bump for that because with an until bump, nothing will start until the bump switch is pressed all the way in and released, and then your program will begin. Okay, so we start with an until bump, and after that bump we have the left and right motor both turning on at half power. You can see here that I have a wait after that, and that wait's really important, and you may have found that really tricky in class today because initially you probably wanted to just say okay, until bump, start motor, and then until bump again, because that's how the task reads. Bump switch is bumped, left and right motors turn on at half power, and bump switch is bumped again. But really, we need a wait there so that the computer program knows that there's a difference between the first until bump and the second until bump. So just to give you an example of what this might look like without the wait, we'll go ahead and run the program and you'll be able to see the difference without the wait versus with the wait. So let's download the program here. And we have a test bed right here. So we'll go ahead and select start. And I'm going to hit the bump switch. And when I hit the bump switch again, the motor should turn off. But it doesn't because it wasn't able to tell a difference between this until bump and this until bump. So the motor just kept running because that's what it said to do, and then the program just shuts off after 3.5 seconds because that's our next wait. So what we need to do here is put in a wait. And the wait doesn't have to be long, it can just be 1 second, just long enough so that the computer understands that there's a difference between this until bump and this until bump. Okay? And you can see I've documented that over here in my programmer code. Wait 1 second. The wait is needed so that the motors will run after the bump switch is hit the first time. So let's go ahead and download this program with the wait and see if there's any difference. So this time, after I hit the bump switch the first time, when I hit it the second time, the motors should then move in reverse for 3.5 seconds and shut off. And let's see if we can do that. So here's my first bump. Motors are moving, and they should just keep on moving in that direction until I hit the bump switch again. So let's hit the bump switch one more time. They should reverse, which they do, and they should stop after 3.5 seconds. Great, so we've written a successful program here for the challenge bump switch. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the super challenge bump switch limit switch task, which you'll kind of see that same wait problem come back again. So on this task description, we had to wait for the limit switch to be touched before both motors turn on at full power until the bump switch is pressed. Both motors should then stop until the limit switch is touched. The right motor should then run in reverse for 3.5 seconds at 3/4 speed. So here you can see all of our pseudocode typed out step by step, and then let's go down to our task main and take a look. Okay, limit switch is pressed, left and right motor should both turn on at full power. We'll wait without 1 second so that we know that the computer knows there's a difference between this bump switch or limit switch being pressed and this bump switch being pressed. So after we press this bump switch, the left and right motor should stop. Okay, and then the limit switch is pressed and the right motor starts in reverse at 3/4 power for 3.5 seconds. And you'll notice that we have again another wait here so that the computer can tell the difference between this bump switch and this limit switch. All right, so let's go ahead and run this program and see if we wrote it successfully. So download the robot. We'll go ahead and start. And let's just check what's going to happen. Limit switch is pressed. Motors turn on full power. When I hit the bump switch, they should turn off. And then when I hit the limit switch again, they should, just the right motor should start back up for 3.5 seconds. So let's give it a shot. So here we go with our first limit switch hit. Both motors are running. Okay, and they should continue to run until I hit the bump switch. When I hit the bump switch, they should both turn off, which they do. And then if I come back and hit the limit switch one more time, the right motor should go in reverse at 3/4 speed for 3.5 seconds. And there it goes. So it looks like we've written yet another successful program. If you have any questions about either of these programs or the weights, please come see me. We can talk after class. I know the weights can be tricky, but once you understand them, they're really easy to use. So I'll see you in class, and have a good evening.